So I want to tell you about Dr. Eugene Gu. This is a great story, and he's a wonderful guy. He's a graduate student, and he's a doctor. He's at Vanderbilt University. It's a great university, and on the side, he starts doing experiments. And these experiments turn out to be really fruitful. They're amazing. So let me tell you, he's only 30 years old. This guy's unbelievable. Okay, so let me tell you the story. Dr. Eugene Gu became the first person to successfully implant the heart and kidney of a human fetus into a rat. The organs actually grew inside the rat and sustained its life, a result that could have enormous implications for the treatment of life-threatening birth defects. Great. And they go on to explain at the Huffington Post, Gu, who was awarded a prestigious Howard Hughes Medical Research Fellowship when he was just 25, says his ultimate goal is to transplant healthy fetal organs in utero to babies with fatal congenital diseases so they can survive to adulthood with fully functioning hearts and kidneys. Now, that's great on every level, but additionally, if you're a conservative, you're pro-life, those babies that a lot of people honestly would have given up on, he's going to save them. Even if they hadn't given up on them, their conditions are so bad that once they're born, they die because they have a fatal heart disease. He could save their lives. This is great news. Okay, I think we're all going to agree. They go on to explain, he also hopes to grow human organs in animals that biomedical researchers could then use to develop cures for heart disease, the leading cause of death in the world, and end-stage renal failure, the #1 reason patients are on transplant waiting lists. I mean, how good does this get? And when they asked him about it, he said, quote, I want to someday end the organ donor shortage. Fantastic. Okay, good news finally. But wait. Of course, if you've got this kind of good news in America, it must be crushed. So here comes the turn. But Gu's research hit a snag in April of this year when 2 armed United States Marshals banged on the door of his studio apartment. It was 10 a.m. and Gu had been sleeping off an all-night trauma surgery shift at Vanderbilt Hospital, and he had no idea why the police would be at his house, and he was afraid to let the marshals in. So he's confounded. He's just, out there working at the hospital, and he's like, wait, what is this about? Can I see a warrant? They said, no, we don't need a warrant. Why don't you need a warrant? We have a subpoena. A subpoena? What kind of subpoena? We have a congressional subpoena. The Republicans in the House of Representatives would like to investigate you. They go into his house. All right, the subpoena had come from the House of Representatives Select Investigative Panel on Infants' Lives, led by Representative Marsha Blackburn, Republican of Tennessee. Gu's startup research company, Gannigan, is one of more than 30 organizations being investigated by House Republicans over the use of fetal tissue from abortion clinics. But as I'm about to show you, that stupid video that came out, it's bogus. It was a hoax. Investigated over and over. Nope, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's true or false. It was a pretext to shut down any kind of science, research. Oh, no, you're using fetal tissue to save the babies so that they can live. I thought you were pro-life. Nope. We're going to shut it all down. That was the whole point anyway. A spokesman for the House panel said the goal of the investigation is to, quote, protect the integrity of research, scientific advancements, and voluntary organ donation in America. How are you protecting the integrity of the research? By shutting down the research. They're such horrible liars. So, to give you clarity on what I was mentioning earlier, more than a dozen states also opened investigations into Planned Parenthood, but none of those inquiries turned up any evidence of wrongdoing. And in a surprising turn of events, a grand jury in Harris County, Texas, that was supposed to be investigating the family planning provider, instead decided to indict the anti-abortion group behind the videos. That's exactly what I told you. The videos that these guys put together where they pretended that Planned Parenthood was selling the remains of these fetuses for profit. But investigators in all those states, including deeply Republican Texas, were like, no, they weren't. We watched the videos. We realized how you edited them and you doctored them. And when you look at the full videos, they go, look, we can't sell the fetuses. We don't want to sell the fetuses. And so what we do is we donate them to science so that people can study it and learn things and help human beings. And all they do is they give us money back, a nominal fee, things like $70 for transportation costs. That's it. Every single one of the investigations, including all the Republican ones, said they didn't do it. They didn't do it. Actually, the only ones who broke the laws were the guys who did the doctored video. But it doesn't matter because the Republicans don't care about the truth. It's just a pretext to their political goals anyway. So, okay, well, if we leave the story here, but come on, this is such an obvious, transparent ruse to stop the research. They're not going to go along with this, are they? Well, let's continue the story. But Gu said that the negative attention from Congress has created, quote, a harrowing ordeal for him. Fellow surgical residents at Vanderbilt became suspicious of him. He said one colleague compared him to Martin Shkreli, the deeply hated pharmaceutical executive who had to testify before Congress. So, and then they go on to explain all the reasons why Shkreli is deeply hated. And here, but let me go to that quote again, because they say at the end there, Gu's academic evaluations turned negative after years of near perfect grades, and he says the doctors he was observing in surgery became more demanding and critical of him. You know why? Because now he's shrouded in suspicion. It doesn't matter that he was doing great research. It doesn't matter that it was successful. U.S. Marshals came into his house. They came to his house. So that's it. I mean, God knows. I don't know what he's up to. Maybe he's one of the bad guys. Okay, outside of school, anti-abortion activists began to harass him on social media and send him angry notes. They started calling him a child killer, baby killer. Oh, that's what they called Dr. Tiller before they shot and killed him. But he didn't do the abortions. He has nothing to do with the abortions. These are just tissues that he's using for research. He says, I felt under siege. I'm just trying to save people's lives. And now being thrown into this abortion fight is a proxy. I have nothing to do with abortion. I don't encourage abortion. I just use tissue that would otherwise be discarded. And for now, I'm painted as this baby killer just for doing research as a medical student. And by the way, now he's got all these legal costs. He's still a graduate student. He's got no money. He's got a couple $1,000 in the bank. He runs out of money. He goes to Vanderbilt to help him. They're like, I don't know who you are. No, we're not helping you. We don't want to be associated with you. Mission accomplished. You take a guy who's doing good work and you crush him. So now let's look at the results of what that leads to. Heart disease, #1 killer in America. You know how many people die from heart disease every year in America? 610,000 people a year. You're pro-life and you're stopping research that could maybe prevent a lot of those deaths? 610,000 a year. No, don't do any research into it because we've got a war on science. Okay, how about babies born with congenital heart disease? About 1 in 100 babies and approximately 40,000 babies every year. So those babies who are very, very sick, in the hospital, wires plugged into them, etc., they could be saved. And look, Dr. Gu's not going to do it on his own, but he's got a great start. He did something no one else was able to accomplish. And you can look at those babies and then go, I don't care. No, I've got philosophical differences. Do you know that he's right, that that fetal tissue is thrown away? That's the other alternative. There is no other alternative. It's not like you can magically take that fetal tissue and create some sort of person out of it. It's gone. In fact, Mitt Romney, in 2012, when he was running for president, it came out that he'd invest in a company whose job was to throw all that stuff in the garbage. Why not just use it for science? Because you hate science. And you're against anything that would be in contradiction of your propaganda. No. Well, if you believe in science, well, then you might think that the earth is not 6,000 years old. You might think that women did not come from the rib of man. You might get all these thoughts in your head that are accurate and factual. We've got to defeat that. So who's the person leading this charge? Marsha Blackburn. So that's the Republican from Tennessee, that same state that Vanderbilt's in, and she doesn't care. Doesn't care about those babies, doesn't care about the 610,000 people dying every year from heart disease, doesn't care about medicine, doesn't care about science. No, she's got a political agenda, and her agenda is to take the choice of women away from them. No, you don't get to choose. We control your body. We're for small government, but we want to be right between you and your doctor. We don't want your doctor making that decision. We don't want you making that decision. I want to rip liberty away from you. I want to tread on you. I want to take your freedom away, and I want to crush science. But I'm for small government. That's what Marsha Blackburn says. These people are reprehensible. So what's the conclusion for Dr. Gu? He says, they told me to make sure I never associate myself with Vanderbilt when I talk about my research. They advised me to not interact with the media or with congressmen on the Democratic side. Basically, they just wanted me to stay silent. In fact, he had an interview planned with NPR on the campus of Vanderbilt, and he made the mistake of going to the people running Vanderbilt to ask for help because he doesn't have any money and he doesn't know how to fight these guys legally. And he's like, we're doing scientific research here that could actually change the world at Vanderbilt. Can you help me? They said, no, not only will we not help you, you're never to mention Vanderbilt, and we're canceling that interview because it's on our campus. We control that studio, so you're not allowed to do it. Gu has temporarily suspended his research due to a lack of funds and the toxic political environment. He hopes to be able to resume when the smoke clears. In the meantime, he wants to shine a light on the ways in which Congress's investigation is intimidating scientists like him into halting their potentially life-saving work. He's hoping to transfer to a university out in California or on the West Coast, where there are people who actually value intelligence and science and facts and reason. Then you wonder, hey, how did the South get so poor? Well, who wants to subject themselves to this? So when you've got conservatives in charge and they don't want you to be intelligent, they don't want you to bring people facts and information because they've got to make sure that that propaganda is implanted in everybody's head and only their propaganda, well, no intelligent, reasonable person is going to stay there. Then don't get surprised that you got left behind, that California is the richest state because it welcomed intelligence. Dr. Gu says, I no longer want to remain silent over these abuses directed toward me, toward other researchers, toward women, and toward millions of patients. I'm on the side of logic, reason, and science. I'm on Dr. Gu's side. I hope to God someone has enough sense to hire him immediately and let him to continue his research. That's the kind of bravery, courage, and innovation that we need in this country. Those are the only things that make us the leaders in some of the very important fields in this world. Podcast the whole 2-hour Young Turks every single day, commercial-free, All-Star Tuesdays, Aggressive Progressives, Old School, Post Games, TYT Classics. You get it all with membership. Do it now, tytnetwork.com/join.